Okay, in our development unit, we want to talk about childhood trauma. This is a big developmental issue. And so you should have a sheet that looks like what's just over here to, whoops, the other side, on this side of me. Adverse childhood experiences. You should have a document that looks like that. Open it up or print it, or I've given it to you, something. And you are going to fill out the notes for it and show me that you did that. Maybe it's in a Cami doc or something, but either way, you'll have something to do notes in. So let's talk about childhood trauma. It is a huge impact. We've already talked about this when we talked about the founders of psychology, just the importance of what happens when you're a child, and your development through childhood can have a huge impact on your development as an adult, or potential, mental disabilities that may happen as a result of that. So first off, let me just talk about the impact overall. One, exposure to childhood trauma dramatically increases a person's risk for 7 out of 10 of the leading causes of death in the US, including high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer, and it's crucial to address this as a public health crisis. So the deal is that childhood trauma doesn't just affect your mental health, it affects your physical health. And that's because mental health affects your physical health. So it's really important to keep your stress down and to have healthy mental state. So this is huge. All right, let's talk about childhood trauma. So first off, let's define it. Adverse childhood experiences, that's what we're talking about. They're called ACEs. Adverse meaning negative. Childhood experiences, also known as ACEs, are potentially traumatic events that happen in a child's life, and they can have negative and lasting effects on both health and mental well-being. So we're talking about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. A lot of research on this in recent years. Traumatic events have a negative, lasting effect on health and mental well-being. That's the definition. All right, when do these occur? Well, the experiences occur before the age of 18, and they are remembered by the child as an adult. And that's key because they're kind of making the point that these are not repressed memories that are forgotten, and then you suddenly come up with them, when you're 35 in therapy, with a psychologist. No. No, we're not doing that. Remember, the idea of repressed memories is mostly complete myth. Most memories are remembered. And matter of fact, they impact us negatively in a big way if they're traumatic, of course, or can affect us negatively in a big way. All right. What do these traumatic events include? Well, first we divide them into two subjects. All right. One, things that happen to you: psychological, emotional, physical, sexual abuse, the things that happen to you. And then there's also things that you witness or experience that cause chaos and stress. Of course, the one things above cause stress as well. More on that in a little bit. So, for example, what are some experiences that you may witness or see or live through? One, violence against a mother. That's a traumatic experience. Living with a household members who are substance abusers, alcohol or drugs. All right, those are traumatic experiences. Living with someone, a parent, or someone who has a severe mental illness. So mental illness, mentally ill, and then suicidal. So someone who's suicidal. And then lastly, criminal or imprisoned. So any of these things are traumatic events. So if you look at the little chart above my head here, there's basically 10 things. Under abuse, we have physical, emotional, sexual. Neglect, you have physical neglect, where you're deprived of things you need, like food and different and things like that. Emotional neglect. And then household dysfunction, mental illness, incarceration, mother treated violently, substance abuse, divorce. That chart right there is really a great way to remember these things in those categories. And so that's maybe even something that you'd want to take your whiteboard out, put the three categories up, and try to come up with the 10. This is a study they did in 36 states plus the District of Columbia, and psychologists were looking at how common are ACEs. And what they found is that 36% of the population, looking over here to the left, 36% of the population had none, had zero. Wow. Good for them. That means they didn't live in families that a lot of us live in. 26% had one. Two of the things that we just talked about, traumatic experiences, 16%, 9.5% had at least three, and 12.5% of the population has four or more of those traumatic events that happen to them. And that's where the physical long-term effects actually we really see that have an impact is when you have four or more of these aces. I know a faculty friend of mine, and she has nine. She had 9 out of 10. Yet, despite that 9 out of 10, she is a successful, educator, and lives a good life. It is possible, but boy, you really have to overcome a lot when you have aces, and that's what we know. We know it affects us mentally and physically. All right, what is the impact of this maltreatment? So maltreatment, like child abuse, sex abuse, neglect, bullying, causes chronic stress. And what that does when you're young is it disrupts early brain development and the development of the nervous and immune systems. And that's what causes these long term health issues because stress impacts the brain, impacts a nervous and immune systems. And then we have all kinds of long term health issues. If you look up a little chart that's above my head, you'll see that cortisol is like adrenaline that's pumped in your body when you're stressed, and it causes all the things above. If you see a bear and you get adrenaline rush and you run, although don't run when you see a bear, that's actually bad, but you get an adrenaline rush when that happens, like, okay, that's a good thing at that moment. However, if this is happening daily all the time in your house, even when you're just waking up at night, there's multiple events of these sort of things, then you can see the sort of nerve issues, digestive issues, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, heart disease, weakened immune system, and anxiety, depression, and headaches. So those are all the things that this can cause. All right, we're going to stop there at this lesson, and then we'll come and we'll finish up with the next part of the lesson. Thanks.